a written production of the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated and is intended for the sole purpose of informing our Recreation Center members. Any duplication, copying, transmission, broadcast, or use, including electronic and social media, is strictly prohibited without the prior written consent from the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated. Thank you for watching.
Yes, please do. Good morning, everyone. I call this exchange meeting to order and ask that you all rise and join in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You want to say something to the people? Welcome to the exchange meeting for March. I'm Kat Fimmel, President of the 2023 Board of Directors. This meeting is audio and video recorded by the RCSC management and staff. Please be advised that there is no recording of this meeting by any individual. Please take out your cellular phones and electronic devices and check to make sure they are in the silent mode. Now I'd like to introduce your board of directors. Director Steve Collins.
Hello, everyone.
Director John Nowakowski.
Good morning.
Secretary Jean Totten.
Good morning, everyone.
Treasurer John Fast.
Good morning.
Vice President Karen McAdam. Good morning. And Director Denny Nickel.
Good morning.
Management staff, Bill Cook, the General Manager. Kevin McCurdy, Director of Finance.
Good morning.
Mike Whiprud, Director of Buildings and Infrastructure.
Hello.
Chris Herring, Director of Operations.
Good morning.
Brian Duthu, Director of Golf and Grounds.
Chris Lynham taking his place. Good morning, everybody.
Chris Lynham, thank you, Chris. Mike Deermeyer, Director of Bowling.
Good morning.
Jolynn Higgins, Communications and RCSC Marketing Coordinator. Polly Corsino, Sun City Visitor Center and Marketing Manager. Marcia Johnson, Corporate Executive Coordinator.
Good morning.
And Teresa Serino, Director of Events and Entertainment, up in the booth. I also want to recognize Alan Kleinhans and Carly Young, our audiovisual engineers, and our timekeeper, Tracy Bussebarger. Before we begin, there is two directors' comments. Secretary Totten.
Thank you. A while back, not too long, I don't think you should remember, if I can, I had asked all of you who were in the audience or listening to send me, if you would, 4 goals you'd like to see the board accomplish this year. I haven't heard from too many of you, so if you'd like, I put that out there again. Use my email, jtotten@suncityaz.org. The other thing is, my fellow board members don't know this because they don't need to. I am conducting a little survey on my own. It has nothing to do with anything board, this is me. My question is simply, why did you move to Sun City? And I'll give you a couple of examples. The weather, parents were here, family here, the house caught your eye, your health, the low assessment, low property taxes, the amenities. Just, and maybe if you, let's try this again, email me, because I can't go around and talk to all of you individually. but I'd love to hear your answers. So thank you for your time.
Madam President,
Director Collins,
I just
microphone.
wanted to. Yeah. I just wanted to say before I forget, Teresa and her staff did a wonderful job this weekend. It was just, you guys knocked it out of the park. Thank you so much.
Anyone else? Any directors? Okay. Answer D, because it's the greatest place in the world to be, right? Am I right? I'd like to take a moment to talk about the Sun City Foundation. Some of you may be familiar with the foundation's work. The foundation has the privilege of supporting the RCSC members who have outlived their resources through assistance with their annual property assessments. The foundation is also actively involved in providing information on the many community resources available to Sun City residents. The foundation was created to promote and enhance enjoyment of retirement for qualifying residents. Perhaps you may be aware of a resident or neighbor or club member that could benefit from the work of the Sun City Foundation. If you want more information, the Sun City Foundation brochures are at the back. Please feel free to take one and to let your friends and neighbors and fellow members know about the foundation. More information is available by calling the corporate office at 623-561-4600, which I believe is on this form, and by picking up this brochure at the back of the room. And we thank you in advance for spreading the message about the foundation. So please pick up one of these on your way out today. Speaking of the back table, hopefully you had an opportunity to pick up this form, which was on the back table. It's a topics, this form at the back table. It's the exchange topics, and we can go over this briefly if you like, but it's an at-a-glance to let you know where we are with things. So, for example, from last month, they were working on the quilters at Grand Room, which my understanding is that it just this past week received its certificate of occupancy and should be having, I would hope, a grand opening sometime in the near future. We're really excited about that. There was some discussion last month about a committee on communications and a committee for sports racket players. Those two things are still in conversation here at the board. Okay. Okay, with that, I will open the floor for member comments. Don't everybody just rush up here at one time.
I'm here in regards of golf and getting tee times through the lottery. I understand that you have to have 30 or more in a small group, and you can pay the $2 extra, and then that group gets preferred tee times in a month in advance. There are 5 or 6 groups, and they make tee times between 8:30 and 10, which is a prime time for other residents. And those of us that are not in those groups, we don't even have a chance to draw within that time period. And so being in colder weather in the wintertime, we have to go out early or late afternoon. And it's just kind of the luck of the draw. When we brought this up to Brian and Chris's attention, they suggested that we put in a 4-hour time period within that lottery time to see if we can draw. And I can tell you, Saturday, we went to starting in March to straight sheets. Saturday, we got denied our tee times. And then we're calling, and we ended up, the only place we could get was one of the executive courses. And two people in our group canceled so we could get one of the tee times. And this is due to the groups that are able to pay extra and to book a month ahead of time. I'm curious, within these groups, the rec numbers that begin with 8,000 are non-resident that do not live in Sun City. I would be curious to have a poll taken of how many of those people in these groups are within our 8,000s that are non-residents. So they're able to get the preferred tee times over people like us that moved to Sun City to golf. And when they pay the $2,700 now for unlimited golf with a cart, that gives them year-round access for unlimited golf within Sun City, which sometimes knocks us residents of why we moved here, not being able to draw within a time period that we would want. Many times the resident lotteries like I said, we're unable to draw and we'll get a notice, and then 5 days before, we're trying to get on the web portal to find tee times to sign up to get a time. Why should these groups be able to always block out the prime time from others just because they're each paying the $2 fee ahead of time? Why can't they go on a rotation basis? So like in the wintertime when they're always taking the space between maybe 8:30 and 10:30, why can't they go on a rotation basis by a month or whatever? So they have early tee times for a month, then they have to go to midday tee times, and then they have to go to a late tee time to give the opportunity of other residents of Sun City that golf that we can get into preferred tee times. We moved to Sun City for the golf and the other amenities. We had never been to Sun City before. We came down and looked at Sun City and said this would be an ideal place to live with all the other amenities and the golf. And so that's why we moved. And when we first arrived 7 years ago, we didn't have this trouble. And now we're finding it's harder for us to get on the courses because of the outside play that's coming in. Please look at the rotation maybe for the large groups. We would appreciate that. And we know that revenue is a very important part because it costs a lot to maintain all these golf courses. But there's a responsibility for the residents that live here to be able to golf and the other amenities for the non-residents and the outsiders.
Thank you. Did you want to comment, Mr. Cook, or did you want? I would make one quick comment because there were two ideas conflated there together, and I want to be sure that people understand the issue with regard to the prime time for tee times is directly related to the small groups, which are residents. There may be one or two guests that may be non-residents, but the non-residents are not the issue with regard to the prime time tee times. I believe I have said that correctly.
So I know Mr. Lynham has got quite a bit to talk, but what I'd like to do is just make a general, statement with respect to golf and tee time. So, what I like to do and what I think the proper process is to work through our committees and through our board to make these changes and try and do them systematically and not try and do a whole bunch of things at once. And so what we've been doing is working with the Golf Advisory Committee in terms of, Mr. Duthu's been working and with Mr. Lynham to put together a plan, an overall plan. So, we've raised our outside rates as of March 1st. So Current price is $27.50 and $32.50 for the riding pass. So we're continuing to increase price there. So, you know, our goal is to slow down the outside play with respect to the raising prices. And with respect to small bookings, you know, we're working with the Golf Advisory. They are in full support of some of the plans that we have in place in terms of limiting the number of outside individuals that are associated with those small groups. We're actually looking at, you know, not allowing outside tournaments during the months, during the high season. So, you know, we're working with Golf Advisory and the board to try and stem, you know, those activities so that, you know, the people that are using the lottery have a better chance. Now, we have gone to straight sheets, and what we're finding is that the percentage of bumps is going down. So more people are using the lottery, which is a great thing. But if you look at last year, the percentage of bumps compared to the total number of people that are entering the lottery, that percentage actually is going down, and we're actually using the lottery more. So with that, I'm gonna, if Chris, I don't, you know, if you have anything more to say, please feel free.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much. I want most people to understand, first off, that the small group bookings, Mr. Duthu's been here almost 13 years, I've been here 12 years. The small group bookings were already in RCSC's policy for us to utilize. No one really ever utilized them for the first 6-8 years that I was here. When COVID hit, the small group bookings became very popular. Obviously, golf took a big increase from people who could only hike or golf. A lot of people chose to golf, and we're really excited about that. It is going to take us some time because when small group bookings were available 12 years ago, they weren't being utilized. Now that they're being utilized very, very nicely, we do have to make some adjustments, and we are working extremely hard to make sure that we figure out the best way to do it for our residents first off, but also that additional income that will help keep our residents' rates low. When we talk about the 8 million numbers, in the month of February, for all small group bookings, and we do consider the 8 million numbers part of our residents because they did pay for that card. So they are part of that small group booking as residents. Right now, we had, in the month of February, 2,256 total golfers for the small group bookings in February. Of those 2,256, 100 of those were the 8 million numbers for the small group bookings. Now, everybody thinks 2,256 for the month of February is a lot for small group bookings to play on our golf courses. We had 45,000 golfers golf in the month of February. So if we take that 45,000 number, we look at 2,256 of our residents doing those small group bookings, it's a small percentage. Then we throw those 100 players that have paid a very nice penny for that annual pass for them. Again, extremely small number. But again, our residents aren't getting tee times. We're having trouble with the lottery. We are really working hard to make sure we come up with a good plan. This is something that we didn't have to take to Golf Advisory. Mr. Duthu and myself want to know the input of our residents. So we're taking this to Golf Advisory. We're coming up with different plans. Bear with us just for a little bit. Give us a little bit more time. But you guys are number one priority to us, and we are working very hard to make sure we come up with a better plan. I haven't got the rotation, but we do have that is implemented as a plan. Mr. Duthu and I have talked about that. They are all prime tee times, as you said, absolutely. First off, we're doing this March straight sheets, which we have increased our total number of lottery requests, people wanting bookings, over 10% more than last year, 2022, and we are only getting a 2% increase in lottery bumps. So for the month of March, we actually are making a nice little dent in that lottery bookings being rejected, getting on the bump list. So far what we're doing so far is working, but again, we've got many more things to talk about, plan out, and to implement going forward. What you recommended about having those small group bookings do some different times is already on our agenda. Great idea, too.
Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm Ron Koppas. Card number is 161548. I don't know the protocol now if you still need to do that. I'm the president of the senior softball club in Sun City. I haven't been here for a while because I had some health issues, and hopefully that's behind me. I had a herniated disc, and then I had back surgery, and I had blood clots in my leg, and I had a procedure. It took 4 hours. I almost bled to death in it, so I'm doing really well right now. So it's nice to be here and be upright. I want to address some things with softball. One is the safety at the softball field. I heard there was a concern on the safety of it, because of the efforts that Chris Herring has put in the field and the maintenance with a stabilizer solution. Probably our softball field is the safest it's ever been. Where there's an unsafe area is that we have some really good shortstops that like to play in the grass. When you play in the grass, you create a problem for yourself because now there's a fringe in front of you. And when the fringe is in front of you and you take a hard hit on the fringe, the ball can go just about anywhere it wants to go. So I would love those shortstops to play not in the grass because they wouldn't get so many of the balls that I hit. If they played in the field itself, it would be a shorter distance. So anyway, as far as the field itself, probably I've heard more comments in the last 3 or 4 months about how good our field is right now. And again, I thank the management in charge of that part of it because our field is in really good shape. And we have a lot of people that play a lot of tournaments, and they'll say that our field is one of the best ones they've played on. Softball in Sun City is growing really fast. We had 40 new members this year. I figure there's probably 15 to go out the back door because they're dying to get out of Sun City. Or they move away, or some of you got that, but not very many of you. Or they just decide not to play softball anymore. So that's a 25-member increase. We've already had 39 people sign up for softball since January 1st this year. So when we talk about lights, we're going to need lights, Bill, in 2 or 3 years. That's going to be a must. So we've had great growth, and everybody's having fun. We're not commingling with Sun City West right now, and to be honest with you, there's no drama at our club. Everybody knows that I don't put up with it, so we don't have it. That's one of the things. The other thing is that just everybody has done everything they can do to make Sun City softball fun. We have more volunteers than we've ever had, and I really appreciate that part of it. The last thing I want to comment on is that our remodeling is coming quickly, and I'm excited about that. So I would like to hear from management, and I'll go sit down. If they can just make a few comments on where our project is, so our members of our club know. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Madam President, I can address that.
Yes, please.
Hi, Ron. We met with you and Chris Herring at the end of January when we got some comments on the drawing set. We've got the architect roll those comments back in. I have that. So it's basically ready to go to the county for permitting. But I do want to take one more review with you and Chris to, one last time to make sure we've got everything, because this is the time to catch any mistakes.
When would you like to do that?
Sometime this week would be good.
I'm free.
Okay, we'll get a hold of you. But assuming that you guys think the drawing set's good, and it should be because it incorporated all those comments that we had on at the end of January, we can, like I said, put this into county. When it gets back, then we can go out to bid. So it'll be on the road by then. That's
Today, Monday, can we plan on Wednesday?
sure.
What time?
Bear with me for a second. I'm wide open on Monday. What works for you, sir? Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Excuse me, Wednesday. Yeah,
Wednesday, 10 o'clock?
perfect. Up at our area.
In your office? Like
Yeah, where we can roll out the drawings.
I'll be there. Can I bring 1 or 2 friends?
Please do.
I will do that. Thank you.
Okay.
Well, I'm glad we got that worked out.
President Fennell.
Yes, sir. Oh, I'm sorry, one moment, please. Yes.
Hello? Okay. I just wanted to ask, you mentioned electric, and I'm sorry, I remember when I was out there and not up here, there was discussion about the electric lines being run. Is that something that we should try to get in now if you're going to ask for it for 2 years?
If I'm in the right place in the comment on that, and talking with Bill and with Mike, we negotiated the lights out at this point because the application was 6 to 9 months. And I was, let's get the project started. But we can put and I think this is the plan, Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, to stub out of the building so they can, when they bring the new service in, that new service then can accommodate lights.
No, that's not correct. We're not stubbing out at this point. So right now, we have no provisioning for lights, no electrical panel upgrade for lights.
If you decide to do that in 3 years, then
We'd have to add another panel. We'd have to come back in and put in the stub outs.
it makes sense to stub.
Well, we had this discussion, and we can do it now, but it's going to, everything I just said about the timing of your project needs to stop so we can put in the infrastructure for provisioning. Well,
Well, what, can we let you address that with Mr. Whiprud in your Wednesday 10 a.m.
Yeah.
meeting? Thank you. It's a delightful conversation, but we might want to talk about a couple other things.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Morning, my name is Tony Wilkie, 105-642. I've been here the last couple months, talk about golf, and the lady in front of me and Chris and the general manager spoke about things that maybe I can clarify a little bit more. I got a note from Brian saying that the golf division had recommended to the golf committee to do two things. One was to cut out weekday outside tournaments starting next year. And my only concern there, now we start talking money from the other side. In February, that was almost $40,000 that came in. The other recommendation was to keep the number of outside members or non-residents to 10% of the small group players. I don't know why that's such a big deal or why it was even brought up when at this point it's only 4%. Why even bother addressing that? Chris said 2,256 small group players. There are 8 groups. 3 have over 45 or 45. 2 have 45. The smallest ones are 30. All 8 play prime time, which is when everybody else is trying to get tee times. They get all that for $2. They get to book, where residents get to book 5 days ahead. They get to book a minimum, not maximum, a minimum of 30 days ahead. Looking at the golf calendar, there is already a booking for one of the small groups on May the 27th. I don't know how fair that could look to anybody when we get 5 days and they get several months. To Director Collins's point that he made last month, to see what the straight sheets were going to do, I did my own little survey. I booked for 2 different groups. For our group of 20, we had a total of 1 rejection. But please keep in mind that we look for something at 11, 11:30, 12 o'clock. And that rejection was for February, nothing in March so far. And I'm sure it's helping because we're actually getting earlier times, not later times. However, for the other group of 5 that tries to play between 8:30 and 10:30 on Mondays and Fridays, in February they were rejected 2 out of 3 times. In March, with the straight sheets, they were rejected 3 out of 5 times. So in my mind, virtually no improvement whatever for prime time users. To somebody else's point that said maybe you could also come up with some suggestions to make things better. How about looking at the small groups, instead of just playing the 5 regulation courses, make them play all 8. That'll loosen up the tee times during the week, during prime time. have half the groups play in the morning, half the groups play in the afternoon, after 1 o'clock. That'll help again. Change the fee. If nothing else helps, move it up to $5 a person. Make them feel it. I'm still waiting on changes I requested to software that I know I asked Chris about a couple of these things well over a year ago, and still nothing. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Susan Bjork, 112650. Hello, Board. I am here just to reiterate my support for the motion to revisit Mountain View. Part of the reason that I'm here is I was going to write you, but I didn't have time this week. Director Nowakowski said that he's going to approve it this go-around, but maybe not next go-around, because he was concerned that he didn't think that there was going to be any change, that 5 new committee members wouldn't be able to make any different decisions around Mountain View. However, what I'd like to just reiterate is that the board is there to ensure fiduciary responsibility, and you are the where the buck stops. And so what I pointed out was policy 24, where you're bulldozing something that we paid almost $750,000 for. You're bulldozing that down less than 10 years later to make room for this theater. And not only that, the pickleball courts, although those were just resurfaced, but that's still another $250,000. That in my mind is not fiduciary responsibility. The other thing that I'd like to understand and to have you guys look at when you revisit this is $40 million, and anybody can say, yeah, it's gonna be a multi-use building, but we're talking about it as a theater. What I'd like to understand is, we talked about, I heard first 18 productions, then I saw 3, and while I want to support our homeowners and members that like the theater, I'd like to understand the numbers that attend those productions each year, because to be honest, Peoria is right down the road and they have professional actors. I may go to that over seeing the people in Sun City. I don't know. And it's no disrespect to them, but my concern is $40 million for a facility to house the theater group where they're not going to be bringing in income. And if it is to be bringing in income, I'd like to see the study on that. How much do you think that revenue is it going to bring in? So I just really wanted to encourage that. You really think hard about that, Director Nowakowski, because that's what you're all up there for, is the fiduciary responsibility. And I didn't like what I was seeing with respect to tearing out things that shouldn't be tore out, especially Mountain View is a mile away. How much is the use over there? The other thing that I wanted to raise today is, people will come up here because they don't understand that Showa is different than RCSC. However, I think we should start considering something like, should we help Showa out money-wise? Should we use some of our PIF funds to subsidize them? And I'm saying that because they don't have enough money. We've got monstrosities being built. We've got problems down at phase 1. We've got issues with the looks of our community, and I just think it's something that should be considered. Maybe we use some of the PIF funds to help support them, because $25 a year, especially when people don't know about Showa. I mean, when I moved here, I didn't realize that it was a separate entity. So when people come up here and start talking about, housing and all of that, some of the past board members would just shut them down. That's not us. That's not us. I don't care if it's not you. We're a community. We need to work together. And so to, really focus on that would be a benefit to this community.
Thank you. Yes, Director Collins.
Just to let you know, we can't use PIF for Showa.
Yeah.
And also, every home that's sold, Showa does get $200.
Oh, that's,
So they do get some money through
yeah,
every home that's sold.
yeah, $200 is not a lot, but you get my point.
Madam President?
Thank
Madam
you.
President?
Yes, sure.
If I could also address that, I understand we're all a community, but RCSC is established as an organization that supports recreational activities only. And if we do not stay true to that, and we actually had the statutes changed based on a lawsuit that occurred that specifically highlighted that we are a part of Title 10 under the statutes and not Title 33. So we're not an HOA. And if we do not maintain our recreational background, we do risk our IRS status. Yep. So we absolutely have to not, act in any way as an HOA.
Thank you. Thank you.
Maybe there's other things you could consider, I don't know, talking with your tax attorney, I don't know.
Good morning. Speaking of recreational activities, I'm here on behalf of Best Friends Dog Club. My name is Sherry Sargent, 122262. First, we really want to say that we totally understand it's a crazy, hectic time for the RC Board of Directors and Management, and we appreciate the willingness of the board and management, both past and present, to consider the fact that the Best Friends Dog Club currently works under a hardship until such time as a climate-controlled indoor facility is available. Our club is at a record high membership with over 225 active members. In addition, we currently have over 115 members attending class sessions, the number of which we have to restrict because of weather-related activities. We set a record for the number of New Manners 1 participants. That's people bringing in brand new dogs. We have over 100 dogs and handlers completing the first step to having better behaved dogs in Sun City. We need more well-behaved canines in our community. Unfortunately, we're coming into the heat. We'll be restricted in continuing that training with the seasonal high temperatures following this session, which ends mid-April. We are, for the first time, considering really early bird classes from mid-April till the end of May. These would be scheduled from 6 to 7 a.m. We'll see how many people want to get up that early with their dogs to take classes. We understand the enormity of projects before the board. However, we do want to emphasize the hardships we currently operate under by not having an indoor climate-controlled facility. Would there perhaps be an alternative site, the indoor social hall, for example, that could be used until such time as our facility could be built? We have a great void ahead of us. Summer, we're not going to start classes again once these are done until November. Our club basically shuts down. We don't have any alternative. We just want to throw this out and keep our awareness going. We do appreciate, again, the time and attention both the board and management have continued to give to our club. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Would you mind deferring to Mr. Olaf for just a moment? He's been standing for a while.
Sure.
Ben, you go ahead.
We'll see who falls first.
Thank you, sir.
Wow, deference to the old man. Ben Roloff, 12663. I have no complaints, I have no concerns, I have no requests, but I bring you some presents. First with some verbal bouquets. I would reinforce what Director Collins had to say about the wonderful weekend of having a festival in Sun City. It's the first time since the late 60s when Western days were dropped that we actually had a festival. I thought it was absolutely marvelous. So did our guests from Wisconsin. It was a great weekend of entertainment and food and fun at nominal prices. I follow the local social media. I know there's some people who thought the cocktails prices were too high, they had to park too far away, that the admission was too expensive, that, that the Sun Bowl concert had to be moved up. and rightfully so, but all in all, it was a fabulous weekend. So thank you, staff, thank you, board, and for approving this. Was a great time for Sun City. I hope it was a win-win for everybody, and this will be a repeat. We'll wait and see anxiously. Second bouquet, Wednesday nights here in the sundial. I think this is the 5th or 6th years of concerts. My wife and I have had season tickets. We've missed one concert in all of those years. Every year we end up saying, that's the best year ever, and this year is no exception. So Teresa and crew, thank you so very much. Alan and crew for all of the sound and the lighting and all the technical embellishments. Well done. Focus groups, Polly. I picked up your brochure on the table. I went through the long survey along with the rest, and I know that there was some impatience, but everyone's going to get some valuable information from that. There's no doubt about that. This is by no means the first time we've done this for the rec centers of Sun City, and we've always gleaned really valuable information. And there's more to come. And that's because with the focus groups. And that's not the first time we've done focus groups. In fact, right in this room, but it's the first time in a long time. And if the results are even half as good as the last time in 1975, if you can imagine, we can be well satisfied with the effort of doing that. In 1975, 135 members of our community got together to determine an appropriate present to the community for the bicentennial. The result was the Liberty Bell. It's up at Bell. It's a wonderful testament, a reminder of our history as living in a country that was the first of its kind in terms of our government, we being the first of a kind in terms of a retirement community. What was different about that replica of our Liberty Bell as opposed to the one in Philadelphia, this one has a time capsule in the base that is to be opened in 2026, 50 years on the 250th anniversary of our country. Inside that time capsule, nobody tells. I know 2 people who were there, but they won't tell me what's in there. We know there's some artifacts, but even a bigger potential presence is that hundreds of people living in Sun City in 1976 wrote messages to us that will be here in 2026. I've had conversations with Bill already about this, with President Fimmel about this. I am so hopeful that we can make this another special event for Sun City. We can share some of those comments of what those people 50 years ago wanted to tell us. And that's going to be something we can put on our Google calendars for 3 years from now. So thank you. I hope we'll get some good ideas that will come out of this new focus groups like that one was. What I do know from history and from my 26 years of living in Sun City, we have an immense talent base living in Sun City of former leaders, bosses, entrepreneurs, people in responsible positions who have ideas to share. What they need is to be asked. I've heard the word volunteer twice already today. I reiterate it the 3rd time. Join us. Be constructive. We love this community. It's a great place to live. Let's work together, make it even better. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And thank you, sir, for your patience.
Sure. Tom Swenson, unlike the president of the baseball club, I cannot say that we don't have drama over at Players. I am here to talk about the Mountain View project. And I was trying to organize my thoughts, and I really can't. And it's because I don't feel we're getting organized information from the board on this, I call radical change to the process that had gone on before this. So I guess that's really what I want from you. Treasurer Fast, when you made your motion, it seemed like we honestly want 15 groups to come together to get the best plan for the city and so forth. And then you said, well, let me give you some details. And you went into great detail about a specific plan. So that really confused me, and it makes me distrust your honest appeal for input and a consensus and so forth. Secondly, I want you to get some money to purchase an air horn for the nice woman who's doing the timing, because obviously a ding doesn't work. I keep hearing this $40 million is too much. Number one, the theater is going to be a portion of that, 20, 25, who knows, even if that's the number. So 40 is for the entire complex. Number two, why do you say it's too much money? Just because it's a big number? I've seen no one say, well, we looked at this theater, we've looked at that complex, this basketball court, this, and said, oh, those numbers are just off the... Now, if you were also fiscally responsible, you wouldn't keep delaying the process, because every year you delay it adds $3 to $7 to $10 million to the project. Don't you realize that? You have added this last year, with all the delays, you've added 10% to the project, $4 million, if that's the number. Okay, what else can I fit in my 44 seconds? So I don't think that's fiscally responsible. You're talking about fiscal responsibility? That is not. And what is the plan? How in the world do you expect a club to just be out at any unspecific time in the future? We have contracts, and we've told you this, that go out a year. But I hear nothing. Now, that's just not how you do business. That's not how you treat a 62-year-old club. Talking about, I call it the Crystal Cathedral, the idea of a theater at Lakeview with this big glass wall overlooking the lake. And I asked President Fimmel this, and she said, nope, we haven't looked at a feasibility study. You don't even know if it's possible. And if it's possible, how much? And what happens when you change the timeline of moving the clubs out of the building there that you're going to crash down next to a newly sealed lake? Has anybody looked into any of this? From what I'm asking, the answers I've gotten, there's been no looking into it. So, lastly, we have never been consulted. Never. No one's asked us to talk to you about what we could use, what can happen, and that's unconscionable. At the next board meeting, the president's going to provide what we consider a counter-proposal to chaos. So I look forward to seeing how you react to his input to what could be a meaningful way of stopping this disaster.
Thank you.
Hi, Farrell Ford, 126399. First of all, I'm surprised at how small this group is here today. I wasn't at the last board meeting, but I have been seeing all kinds of comments, negative and positive, on Facebook and neighborhood and everything else, and I really came here thinking this room was going to be packed. And I got to tell you, I ran into a friend in the parking lot coming in, and I said, oh, are you going to the meeting? And she said, no, I'm going to meeting. She said, what are you here for? And I said, well, they're talking about the Mountain View project. It's a large spend. I have some concerns. Oh, I don't care about that. I said, you don't care about a $40 million potential spend? Nah, I don't care. And I don't know if that's the issue or not. Mr. Swenson, I would tell you, I am one of the people who thinks you need to have a center. I think you deserve more than a center shared with a gym wall. You are not the only organization in the city that would use it. There's a lot of other musical groups and whatever. I also happen to think that putting it at Mountain View is a bad location at the far south end of this city. I think it would be much better suited, more centrally located. Okay?
Are you willing to put up for a 5-year delay?
I don't know that you would need a 5-year delay. Well, you had said just a few minutes ago, and I'm sorry I'm addressing him instead of you guys, you said nobody's done some research. I did some research last week on the cost of state-of-the-art performing arts centers. Pulled up 700 seats. 3 have been built in major communities in the last 4 years at the cost of no more than $17 million apiece. And they were state-of-the-art. And I would suggest you do some research and see, because the cost, you could have a better center that was totally dedicated to the arts. I mean, I know everybody says, look, we'll insulate walls, you're not going to hear the basketball court. I would bet you that's not true. Okay. And I think, again, I think you deserve a standalone center along with all the other musical groups here in town. And I don't know if you'd be willing to settle for 2. I've got one other quick comment. I'm sorry I'm over my time.
Please, go ahead.
Okay, that's, does that mean I get another 30? In terms of why people aren't here, a couple of months ago, I suggested you have every other meeting or one meeting every quarter at a different time. Because there are a lot of people, the demographics are changing, people are still working full-time. The solution was to change a meeting to 3 o'clock. That is not a solution, folks. If people are working full-time, make at least one meeting a quarter at 6. I have heard people say, well, people won't come to that meeting. They come up here for entertainment purposes at 6 o'clock. So I do think they would come to the meeting. And that's all I would have to say.
Thank you.
Farrell, can I say something? How do I get this? Farrell,
Secretary Totten.
are you saying we're entertainment?
There are times.
Ma'am, you're next.
He was ahead of me.
Madam President,
Yes.
if I could, just to clarify, I'm sorry, if I could just clarify, there's a lot of budgetary numbers have been passed around with respect to Mountain View. So I just want to make sure that we're clear. So 40 million is a number that includes all phases. 1 and 2 are the phases that we're in right now, which includes the Performing Arts Center, the pools, and the auditorium. So the Performing Arts Center portion of that is roughly 13 to 14 million. Okay, so that is the piece that's associated with the Performing Arts Center. And then the remaining 13 million is for the pools and for the auditorium. And then we have another 13 million that's for phase 3, which was for whatever that could be, pickleball, it could be lawn bowl, it could be anything. We don't know yet. We just haven't made that determination. So I just wanted to make sure I clarified the budgetary numbers.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Donald Townsend. I've been a member of this organization for over 30 years, and I've owned a house here. But I didn't live here very much, but I spent some winters here. I came here not to talk about something not as much fun as golf or playing baseball, but something that perhaps a little more serious matter. As you ladies and gentlemen know, this organization exists because it gets a special exemption. It's as a nonprofit corporation under the IRS rules, and also gets special tax exemptions by the state of Arizona. In other words, we don't pay many taxes. And I happen to like all the nice facilities here. So I don't want anything to happen to jeopardize the existence of this corporation, including these employees here. In other words, if this corporation doesn't exist, these employees don't have a job. And you ladies and gentlemen, you might be sued personally. And what I'm going to mention to you is something I discovered. Now, my background was I was a senior trial lawyer for the United States at the Department of Justice in Washington, D.C. for 18 years. So I tried cases and I settled cases. I settled almost every case I could, if it was possible. And after I retired at 54, I operated a law firm in Washington, D.C. and in Miami Beach for another 25 years until I was 80. So I know what it costs to operate a law firm, and I know what lawyers have to charge, because I did. So I just observed something happening here, and I did a little investigation, and I want to make a suggestion to the board of directors that you look into this matter. I saw recently a case, and some other cases too, I've looked into, where the attorney's fees exceeded anywhere from 20 times to 60 times the amount you could have lost or settled for. Now, if I tried to settle a case for this, I used to represent the United States Army or the Navy or the Air Force, and if I went in and settled a case, say I gave somebody $500,000 and I could have lost $100 million, well, that may be justified. Nobody squawked about it. I sent a memo to the Attorney General of the United States, and he'd okay the deal, because I said this is a good deal for the taxpayers. And I presented in that document, a memo, something called a risk analysis. It's a mathematical computations. And the reason I could do that is because I have an engineering degree in addition to a law degree. So I was a patent lawyer. So I tried the patent cases. So what I've discovered is, because this corporation operates with all these special exemptions, if you violate any of their little rules of the IRS, we don't exist anymore. That means I don't have a recreation center to come to, and you might be sued. So I suggest this to you, that you look into the policies involved in settling these cases and the attorneys you hire. Now, the case I looked at recently, that was the figure, 20 to 60 times you paid in attorney's fees than you could have settled it for. Now, there's something wrong with that. That suggests several things. Either there's a kickback scheme going on here under your nose, or else somebody's following their own agenda. And in either case, we don't want our exemption from the IRS and from the state of Arizona taken away from us, because you folks won't have a job, and these guys won't have a job either. So we got to be very careful what we do. If you take my suggestion seriously, you move on it quickly and appoint a committee or a person or something to follow up on this and start getting some hard numbers from the treasurer. And I suggest that you do it quickly, because if it is somebody's agenda, they're going to move quickly to cook the books, to cover their tracks. That's the usual MO. And I say these things because I was also, for a while, a special prosecutor for the District of Columbia, that's Washington, D.C. So the usual routine would be to cook the books, so they can't get any evidence. So I suggest that you look into it. And that's all I have to say. I'm in the telephone book, and I'd be glad to help you in any way I can. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Would you support having a legal and regulatory affairs committee that has oversight over these things?
Yes.
Thank you.
Ma'am, go ahead.
Sherry Guida, 151324. In the vein that the board is very much in agreement on many issues, and one of them was listening to the members, I want to speak out against any delay on Mountain View. I've listened to a lot of reasons why. I can't imagine that we would start a project of any amount of money without having the money to do it. Second of all, when there's a new board, if I was somebody being hired by Sun City and I looked at a situation like this and they said, oh, we're going to put everything on hold or change it, I would think, do I want to do business with that kind of people that go back on what they want to do? So a board change shouldn't necessarily mean a change in the obligations you've already got at hand. When we looked at our technology, we saw a lot of patchwork. I mean, Sun City was before, we still had rotary telephones and everything. So we saw what a mess the tech situation was. And that's what's happened at Mountain View. This is broken, it got patched. And like the rest of us, Mountain View is suffering from age-related issues. We just have a lot of wear and tear. So yes, there's a need for things to be torn down. I invite anybody who wants to come look at the pickleball courts to see the cracks. They're there. I don't care if it was built yesterday at a cost of $20 million, they're not in good shape. Talk about distance for the theater. The theater is too far. Okay, folks, Sun City's all of 14.6 square miles. If you've been to any Sun Bowl concerts, you see that the traffic to get there is busy because it gets filled up. People are willing to go all the way to Phase 1. If you belong to a club, your club may have a designated space. Is it a problem for you to go all the way to Marinette if you live in Phase 1, or to Bell, or wherever, whether you use your golf cart or your car? As far as a separate location for the theater, that would be fabulous. As we all know, we are confined by what square foot, miles we have. Like the Grand facility, are we then going to have to buy another piece of property for that theater? So the things that I'm hearing suggested also have other sides. So just as a member, I want to be heard that I do think that Mountain View should go forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Charlie Peterson, 130438, a member of basketball and volleyball. I appreciate the chance to come and express an opinion. I'm really troubled by the vote to delay the Mountain View project again. There's been, this thing's been scrutinized over the last 5 years. I know, Director McAdam, you said that you thought the process was flawed. I'm not sure why you would say that when a lot of people with a ton of experience looked at this at the Long Range Planning Committee. They looked at it with the Ad Hoc Committee. There's been hundreds of people that have come to town hall meetings. They've come to testify and indicate their favor with the Mountain View project. Again, I'm surprised you'd say the process was flawed. And I guess I'm wondering if the board is really listening to people. Mr. Kepler, who's here, he was on the ad hoc committee. He testified at one of the meetings recently that, there's a need for flat floor space for things like dance, exercise, volleyball, basketball, badminton. I think also in January, General Manager Cook was asked if Sundial was overutilized, and he said yes, and that the Mountain View Auditorium multi-purpose gym would be a great offset to Sundial. So, there's been a lot of people that have stepped up, spoken in favor of this, and yet the board doesn't seem to quite get it. I know that Director McAdam, you said that there was no other kind of a multi-purpose gym in a retirement community, and I decided I'd do a little fact checking, and in fact called the villages in Florida and found out that yes, they do have a gym and they have regularly scheduled volleyball and basketball and other activities in their gym. In addition to that, I did a little additional research. There's also in Sun City Hilton Head, they have a gym in the works that's going to be available at the end of 2024. So there are other communities that have the foresight to be able to provide this kind of activities or the opportunity to have a building that would provide these activities. And I would sure like to see the board come to their senses and move ahead with Mountain View. There's been too much money spent already on getting it going, and I'd urge you to go ahead on the Mountain View project. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
I'm Margaret Ellingson. My member number is 9953. I have macular degeneration and my vision is very poor, so I've asked Susan here if she would read the comments for you.
Before I read her comments, I just want to clarify. When I talk about improving facilities, I'm not talking about Showa because I understand the difference. I'm talking about our RCSC facilities. I'd like to see some of the money spent there. And the other thing is, the gentleman that was talking about, reasonable fees. One of the things that I asked the very first meeting that I came to when we moved here, which was the annual meeting, which was a farce relative to the proxy, is where are the multiple bids? And I was told we get them, but we don't. I haven't seen any, and especially with the architect firm. I don't care that the architect firm is well-known. What I care about is that we validate the numbers that are coming from that architect. I'm not saying you have to go with the lowest bid or the highest bid. All I'm saying is that when you're taking your fiduciary responsibilities and stewardship seriously, you get additional bids. So that's all I want to say. So it sounds like, I haven't read all of this, but I read it's mostly questions for you guys relative to thinking seriously about the Mountain View project and what may not have been looked at. So just food for thought as you proceed, because as I said last time, I think that you need to take action and take it quickly so that we can get the right facilities for the theater and for those folks that do like to put on those creative productions. So Margaret wants me to say, I am thankful that this current board is doing their due diligence by checking the facts before making any decisions. I truly appreciate the time and opportunity to get answers to my questions on all the steps that were taken to implement the Mountain View project. It is refreshing to finally have a board that is willing to listen to the members' concerns and actually respond. Because as Mr. Peterson said, there are people that are for it, but there are also a lot of people that have concerns with how it's been run. I haven't been here long enough to understand all of that, but I do know from day one, the first meeting I was at, it's been a chaotic mess. So I would have to agree with her. So not only taking their views seriously, you have to take our views seriously as well. And here's some of the questions that we have that make not only Margaret and others go home, but myself. Why wasn't there a motion to rule on option 1, which were the first plans drawn up by CCBG? Why weren't all directors of the board notified of plans to have option 2 drawn up? Why was option 2 only presented to public 1 week before the board meeting in June of 2021? Who contacted the architectural firm and asked them to draw the new plans? Why weren't questions answered fully and completely from emails sent by various members? Why were the usage numbers looked at during the time the fitness centers were closed and during the time that there were restrictions on how all facilities could be used? I hope this wasn't the case. What references, if any, did the 2021 board use when gathering the stats on club usage? Why was this project only submitted to one architectural firm? Great. How many members belong to each of the following clubs? The Sun City Orchestra, Ukulele Club, Bell Ringers, Palms, Sun City Players Club. How many times during the year do each of these clubs perform? How many people attend their performances? Kind of echoing what I brought up. How much money do they bring in for RCSC? Why were the stats on these clubs not considered when making a decision on whether a new building was necessary? Does it make sense to demolish areas utilized by clubs that are functioning perfectly well? Has anyone ran the numbers of what it would cost to remodel and add on to the existing building at Mountain View as opposed to demoing the area and building new? That's all she's got. Thank you.
Thank you. And would it be fair for me to say that some of these questions, or maybe all of these questions, are partly the reason why we want to have this member-based committee to look at these issues as well as a host of other issues? Is that fair? Okay. Sir?
Thank you. Jim Kepler, 127409. I'm here so often people might think I actually like getting up and testifying. Truthfully is, I used to do it 15 years ago and I hate it. Let's talk about Mountain View. The dirty little secret about Mountain View, and many of us refers to ourselves as the stepchildren of Sun City. All you have to do is take a look at our broken down mini golf course, the hot tub that hasn't worked for 6-8 months, the exercise room with all the leftover junky equipment in it, the tiny little thing. Some of us actually like it there because nobody uses it. So I'd like to talk about we have a resort-style pool with zero landscaping. It almost looks like a prison pool, honestly, when you're sitting in the place. And Mountain View we have a pool capacity of 215. We have 35 lounge chairs and 8 tables with umbrellas. I went yesterday, there wasn't a place to sit, and that's just the beginning of the nice weather. But now I want to move on. First, let me say, there was talk of moving the theater to a different facility, and having been on that committee, I actually agree with that. And the reason is, it was never our intent to put the theater there and then rip out the pickleball courts and rip out the lawn bowling that had just been rebuilt. So putting this building somewhere else actually makes a lot of sense, and I'll tell you why. Because we can leave the existing theater flat space floor alone. All it needs to be is refurbished, cleaned up, tidied up, and you instantly have your exercise space. You have even indoor pickleball space, because I went in and pasted off, and based on the square footage, you could easily put 2 indoor pickleball courts and still have a lot of excess space in there. And the other thing I found out was badminton has the same court dimensions as indoor pickleball. So now you have 2 things in one. I'm not too confident that the board is going to move forward with a lot of speed and move and get this thing done. So I'm hoping that you can do that. And now I'd like to talk about, many of you new members were elected on transparency. And I want to talk about the meeting where we all got up and testified about leaving Mountain View alone, and then the decision was made, nope, we're going to do something else. Now that's fine. If you guys wanted to do something else, my opinion is, why did we go through this dog and pony show of us getting up here and telling you what we thought when you actually knew what you were going to do anyway? I would have rather had you just say, we're going to do this way, and that's what we're going to do. But moving along, there's no reason, like I mentioned, there's no reason, because we looked at these plans. If you move the new theater somewhere else, you can figure that out. We don't have to tear down that existing theater. And now you have additional space that really all it needs is the building needs to be a little freshened up, get rid of that ugly entryway, and tidy up the outside of the building. It has plenty of indoor floor space, and all you'd have to do is upgrade the lighting, maybe put a different floor in it, and you have an indoor facility that you didn't have to tear down. Nobody can yell at you for wasting money because you can say, we saved money. So there's lots of room, and there's also plenty of room if you look at where the Mountain View hot tub was, there's an easy 100 feet between us and that golf course of just empty space. We can go back there. On the other side where the solar panels are, those solar panels can go on top of any existing building out there. We don't have to eat up space. So there's plenty of room for our resort pool, sports pools, and lap pools without tearing down the old building and moving the place on. And the pickleball courts can take up everything that's in where the tennis courts are. And you could even come towards that old building because, as you know, there's quite a bit of walkway that doesn't need to be that wide. You could even put more courts in there. So I just want to thank the board, and I'm done.
Thank you.
Good morning. Nancy Greathouse, 149885. Since 2019, I have listened to the GM and the previous RCSC board discuss Mountain View Recreation Center and theater needs. It has always been controversial at best whenever members or opposing directors tried to propose alternatives to the $40 million three-phase option. At the last meeting with new board members, other options were finally allowed to be heard. After much discussion, I decided it was time for a field trip on my own to gather research of Mountain View. My observations: the area is lovely. Many residents were walking, riding bicycles, and enjoying their weekend community rock show and vintage car show. The swimming pool is beautiful and enormous. It was being used by many, many people during my visit. There is a very large pool surround area for lounging, visiting with friends, and a covered space to relax out of the sun if desired. The indoor spa is not working, apparently for some time, due to costs associated with repairs needed. The fitness area is very small and extremely crowded with equipment which appears to need some updates. The bathrooms, showers were clean but dated, as is the entire facility. The mini golf site is truly sad. The artificial grass surface is old, torn, blocked off in some parts, and completely unusable. There was a gentleman there who was measuring for new grass surface material to be quoted. Hopefully that's moving along. The auditorium theater is actually very nice for small community group activities. Yes, it is very dated and it needs work. I did not see the backstage areas, and I would assume that the dressing areas are desperate for modifications. The pickleball courts were all full and very active during my visit. The exterior of the courts were the exterior of the facility has a very dated look. It obviously needs to be modernized. I met so many people on my visit who were so kind and so interested in why I was there making observations. Without exception, every one of them stated how much they love this facility. They were at the pool, in the fitness center, at the theater, by the mini golf, working as volunteers, or just enjoying the day. There is an insecurity among them that this site will be raised and they may never have the opportunity to see the new $40 million center due to their age. They all love the pool area, they miss the spa, they miss the mini golf. I was appalled that the spa and the mini golf areas were allowed to deteriorate to the point of non-use while members were waiting for a proposed new facility. This is a 55-plus community, and the needs of the members should be paramount, especially when $40 million were being proposed to raise and develop a new site. Paying for an interim artificial mini golf surface and repairing or replacing a spa should have been done with minimal discussion as a maintenance issue. Aged, paying members were deprived of daily exercise and heated muscle relief while these two activities alone. My humble opinion is that destroying Mountain View at this time without researching remodel renovation options would be a huge disadvantage to this community. I will offer that I am unaware of possible structural, roof, or major issues that may have been identified with the proposal to completely redo Mountain View. None have ever been discussed to my knowledge. With that said, remodeling could resurface, paint the entire facilities, tear off and update the facades, remove and replace the entry overhangs, update and replace shaded areas by the pool, purchase new tables, chairs, chaises for the pool, install a new spa in an open area of the pool surface, blow out the wall between the fitness center and the current old spa area to accommodate needed equipment, and add a large set of windows to overlook the pool while exercising. Update the bathrooms with fixtures and flooring. I'm sorry I'm going over real quickly. Thank you. Auditorium and theater, I would say remove the side drywall and ceilings and install appropriate acoustic materials for the theater and movie activities. Install updated appropriate new flooring to accommodate exercise and dance classes held in the auditorium. Replace the stage floor if needed, redesign and remodel dressing rooms, purchase new theater-style chairs for performances, review the use of the kitchen area, and redesign for a new purpose if needed, storage of props, additional dressing rooms, whatever might be the case. This could be a beautiful space we can be proud of. I understand that the theater group is feeling rejected or tricked by this sudden review of the Mountain View project. Unfortunately, it should never have reached this stage. Every board member discussion that centered around this project was contentious, and discussion became angry and at odds. Open, honest discussion was never achieved. A $40 million spend could set this community up for yearly PIF increases and a huge reduction of the current carryover and PIF monies. Other clubs and activities could also be negatively impacted by this spend. I would like to know if the board and general manager are open to having a new quote for the remodeling, updating of Mountain View as an option to spending $40 million and closing the site for an extended amount of time. Remodeling could possibly be achieved by closing specific sections of the site at one time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nancy? Nancy? Oh, it is on. Would you support having a structural engineer look at the building? So
Absolutely.
That we, okay.
Absolutely. I think that should be, I'm surprised that wouldn't have already been an option way up front, but thank you.
Yes, sir.
My name's Milt Lebsack, 130662. I could write a volume right now, but I'll try to be very concise. First of all, I want to compliment the board on the board exchange meetings, the focus group, the survey. I think you're making an honest effort to listen to people and try to make intelligent decisions. The two things that I'm going to talk about the Mountain View project specifically, but in general, the two things that I think are important is that the community should make the best use that they possibly can of the existing facilities that are well maintained and well used, and not make foolish decisions to build facilities that are not needed or will not be heavily used. I think probably the board members all agree with that. And I sympathize with all of you because most of you are now dealing with complaints about decisions that you really didn't have any personal involvement with. And I sympathize with you for being in that position. Specifically, as far as the Mountain View project is concerned, I've said this several times before, the pickleball courts are heavily used. They're one of the newest facilities at Mountain View. I don't see that there's any need to demolish those courts under any circumstances. Secondly, I don't want to make any personal attacks to Mr. Peterson, but I've stated on numerous occasions that I have never seen an indoor gym for basketball and volleyball at any senior development that I have ever been in, and I have specifically cited that there may be such a facility in the villages, which Mr. Peterson has picked up on. If he can find other examples of a community similar to Sun City that does have an indoor gym with basketball and volleyball facilities, I would certainly like to hear about it. I'll save the remaining 45 seconds for somebody else. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good morning, Board. Steve Oakes, and I'd like to talk about building property renovations. First, I want to express my enjoyment with watching plays, listening to music, and various performances. I look forward to enjoying this at a new performing arts center in Sun City as soon as possible. I'd also like to share some key points that may not have been heard or fully understood that I picked up on. One, I looked at the dates that Mountain View and Lakeview were built, 1967 and 1970 respectively, which is now 50 years old for both locations. We are talking about, though, only 3 years difference in ages of these two properties. So it's time to get it right for both Mountain View and Lakeview. Secondly, many of us hear the anger of the Players Club and empathize. Yes, you've waited too long, but the mistakes of the past 4 decades in getting there should not force us to regret decisions in the next few years. No doubt we need the appropriate PAC, an artistic drama display facility where it will be appreciated for the next generations. The Players Club and other clubs put on beautiful performances. Correspondingly, it is time that we have a beautiful performing arts center placed in the most beautiful spot of Sun City. Where is that? Well, we're fortunate to have lakefront property in this community. Let's ensure it provides a rewarding experience for the long term. Last meeting, Treasurer Fass stated in his motion about reviewing the Mountain View construction plans that the Players Club or others would get a rental facility of some type for their use for some period of time. Am I correct about that?
Yes, you are.
This seems to be a missed point for other clubs. Okay, you're going to have a 2-3 year construction period that Mountain View's torn down and you have no access to that current facility. You don't get to put on your performances then. So why not take the offer of a local facility, maybe better and nicer than the one you have now, until a new PAC can be built? In the last board meeting, I particularly liked Director Collins' statement at the end. He said something to the effect, it would be fiduciarily inappropriate to remove items from Mountain View to only spend $10 million more, or I think I just heard Mr. Cook say $13 million in phase 3, to return those same items there later. I was at the Mountain View renovation meeting some years ago. I heard a lot of people talk about a performing arts center. I heard about the pools and a variety of needs for the pools. I heard about a fitness center, and I personally spoke about pickleball. That's what the members asked for. I reviewed the notes from these meetings and the Mountain View Ad Hoc Committee recently. The gymnasium for basketball and volleyball were added by the Ad Hoc Committee in 2020, and not from the notes of the member forums. This suggests special interests forced a design change at the last moment that was not requested by the broad community interests that were stated in the member forums. That doesn't mean I suggest denying basketball or volleyball. Just find the places to put basketball and volleyball that may already exist in buildings that we already have established. And lastly, I don't know how many people know how much time the board members put into the work that they do for this community, but for the extreme work level and effort to gain member input, being respectfully responsive now in this new board group, and fiduciarily prudent, I thank you. May you stay the course and know you are appreciated.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Good morning. Thank you, board members. Thank you, management team. Just first, Joanne Greeny, 106561. The Italian festival that was held there this last weekend was really well received. I was so impressed. And it just proves that we need another auditorium like this last year. We could have more festivals like this that would bring in potential new residents and also would bring in new revenue. So whatever it takes, we need another auditorium like this as soon as possible. Stop the delay on Mountain View. Somehow we can have that Performing Arts Center could also hold some of these board meetings so that our line dancing people and Rocking Through the Years people do not have to be displaced for other events. We need 2 or 3 of these auditoriums. Last year, I did mention that it would be nice if we could have a different time for these board meetings, because 9 o'clock in the morning, everybody wants to do something else. And I was told, yeah, we might look at it next year. Well, it is next year, and maybe we could put that on for 2024 agenda to look at some different times so that we can get a larger attendance and getting involved. Mr. Collins, at the last meeting, you did ask a question on what you all could do to get more attendance. And I did write an email to all the board members and giving my suggestions, my thoughts. And thank you, Jean Totten, for being the only person to just acknowledge the fact that she read my email. I don't know how else, I don't want to sit in line for, an hour and a half either. But it would just be kind of nice if the board every now and then would say, hey, yeah, we did hear from you, Joanne, and we appreciate your input. Again, thank you, board. Thank you, management team. It's a tough gig you all have, and I do still love Sun City. So have a good day.
Thank you. And it's still on the agenda for this 2023 to try to get a later meeting.
Janet Curry, 155-488. And like Mr. Oakes, I looked into the age of the other facilities, Lakeview and Mountain View. Lakeview was completed around 1970, and Mountain View is only a few years older, I think 3 years. So they are the same vintage. And I would say they have served RCSC very well over the years. That also led me to looking at the different phases, because I hear comments like phase 1 is the stepchild or that don't have enough. So I went to the RCSC, the website, and I looked at the facilities for each of the 3 phases. Phase 1 has 9 facilities, the most of any. 3 swimming pools, 3 recreation centers, 45 holes of golf. Phase 2 has 8 facilities, 3 recreation centers, 3 swimming pools, 54 holes of golf. Phase 3 has 2 facilities, 1 recreation center, 1 pool, and 36 holes of golf. I don't buy the argument that phase 1 is the stepchild or has been neglected. I wrote this for a blog, so I'm kind of going all over to keep within 3 minutes. I live close to Lakeview, and I like using the outdoor pool, but I have to admit it's not used by that many people. So if we would have to lose the pool there, I could find another pool. I walk over to Lakeview daily, or almost daily, so I have a pretty good idea of what areas are used and which ones aren't. Most of the time there are people using miniature golf, the hilltop trails, lawn bowling is very busy, and fishing when there is water in the lake. The shuffleboard complex sits empty most of the time, and there are usually only a handful of riding golf carts in the covered space provided for them. I have heard or seen one of the tennis courts used 3 times since November. This fitness center is so small and crowded with older equipment that only 1 or 2 people are in there at a time. Very occasionally, I see someone in the indoor spas, but the smell of chlorine can be quite strong. There is some use of the 3 social halls with a nice outdoor patio, but that space is empty a great deal of the time as well. A few of the club rooms are quite actively used, such as the Women's Club, Sewing Club, Lakeview Painters, Leather Crafters, and Wood Carvers. And of course, the member services are as well. Having no idea what the directors who proposed this idea are thinking, I've tried to visualize an auditorium with ample seating, parking, and good traffic access and egress. There should be ample room on that site for a performing arts center, and one director even mentioned a patio overlooking the lake. Wouldn't that be charming? I'm going to go to the back here. My heart goes out to the Players Club, who keeps asking for an improved venue, but delays continue. I also understand the former director's frustration because they put a great deal of time and effort into their vision of the Mountain View rebuild. And I'm sure management feels some of that same frustration because they have spent countless hours on the existing plans. Our RCSC members are concerned about the amount of money already spent on architectural fees at Mountain View and the $50,000 to develop a plan for pickleball at Lakeview. However, I support Director Fast's motion to pause this until a committee can research the best way to move forward. My mother used to say, "Don't throw good money after bad." Meaning it basically that you realize the things that you have invested in is not what you thought it would be and likely never will be. Don't keep putting new money into it just because of what you've already invested. Thank you.
Thank you.
Turpin Daughters, 117436. I've heard some comments today about refurbishing Mountain View. I know that Mountain View currently has an emergency exit door that is unusable, and as I understand it, has to be replaced if it can be done so. Urinals are about that far apart, about 2 inches apart in the restroom. There have been leaks in the roof there. Things are falling off the wall. It seems to me that the cost of refurbishing that facility will probably be close to what a new facility would run. And if that facility is refurbished, you still have a 50-year-old plus building that you're working with. My understanding on the pool is that the maintenance costs are significant there, and that the replacement of that pool and its the work that it does with the is probably going to save money in the long run. The hot tub is defunct at this point. It needs replacement. It seems to me that the cost of doing all of that kind of refurbishment and still having an old facility is what we're looking at as far as throwing good money after bad. We have spent a fair amount of money so far. I think that the facility is going to be a significant improvement and a draw for new people in the area. We're looking at I think it was said $13 million for this facility, which seems right in line with what other auditoriums have run in the area. Anytime we're putting it off, we're looking at wasting money for inflation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. Excuse me. Good morning, Cheryl McLean, 100212. I have no dog in the fight as far as Mountain View or Lakeview, but from everything I'm hearing, it sounds to me it might be more prudent to put the money toward renovation. And then we did go down and looked at the Mountain View parking. If you make that into a center for entertainment, you don't have the parking there like you do at Lakeview. So that's my opinion on that. Now, as far as the dog park or the dog training facility, have you all looked at the building on Union Hills, maybe purchasing that to make a dog facility? Or up across from Marinette on Union Hills, there's an empty strip mall that has been empty for so many years, well, since I've been here, I believe 17 years. And have you thought about purchasing that to use as a dog training facility? So I'm really wanting to push for that because it's beginning to get hot. I take my dog to the facility down here, and on Wednesday it's supposed to be raining, and if it's raining, that covered facility we can't use for our dog training that morning. So that's my thought on that. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bill, just a second, please.
I think we're on. Bill Pearson, 133438. I thought y'all wanted to see the new softer spoken me. Barb Wagers asked me to remind all of you that in April of last year, at the first exchange meeting, you were asked to consider putting on the marquees the City of Volunteers. I see it's still on the sheet that you were passed out, that it was going to be addressed. It never did make the ASU survey, so I'm not sure how you're going to do that, perhaps through the focus groups. It's interesting that you're asking people to volunteer for focus groups and to fill out surveys, and then we don't remind them that we're the City of Volunteers, but that's just my observation. In 2010, I served on the 50th Anniversary Committee, and in my office is a picture of me standing at a microphone in Sundial, or at Lakeview, and behind me was the plaque we carried, "A Brilliant Past, a Bright Future." And I absolutely believe that because I knew that between 1999, when PIF was passed, and 2030, we would collect between $200 and $300 million in PIF money. A staggering amount of dollars. And all I could see was this incredible community's explosion of good things. To my dismay, some 12 years later, we still don't have a long-range plan. We don't have a strategic plan. We don't have a cohesive strategic long-range plan. We have a PIF budget. That's not a plan. That's just numbers. And I know Bill was asked to do that, and he did it. But that's not a plan. Everything in a community should fit together, not done piecemeal where one board wants this and the next board wants that and the next board wants. That's a recipe for disaster. So I applaud you. I want to. In 2012, when I was first on the RCSC board, I went to Mountain View and it was a dump. I mean, literally. And I say that with all due respect because Mountain View has been the most beloved of all centers. And I've heard that from the lawn bowlers and the pickleball players and the people that use the pool. They love it. How much could you fix it for? 5 million, 10 million? Pick a number, but it doesn't address the theater issue. And flat space is an issue. I will tell you that for at least the past 10 years, we have been looking at, in the long-range planning committee, flat space, retractable seating that can, it ain't bleachers anymore, folks. Can you accomplish both purposes in one building? And that's a question. I don't know an answer, but it's clearly a question. And it's one that needs to be asked, because here's the problem. Whether you say the third phase of the program or the project is kind of out there, it's still out there for $40 million with soft projections on inflation. And we sit in a setting where all of our PIF monies will be tied up for the next 8 to 10 years. Nothing else can be dealt with, because between golf and Mountain View, we've consumed it all. Oh, and here's the rest of the story. Home sales are down. We were using a safe number of 1,500 home sales a year. I don't know that we'll reach it this year. Too early to tell. But if you don't look at that as a board, you are in breach of your fiduciary responsibilities. And I'll conclude with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, go ahead. No?
So if I could address the long-range planning, strategic planning. So part of the ASU statement of work that we're paying them for, it's not only just this survey, but they're also doing a survey of external folks across the country to determine what they're looking for when they retire. And the statement of work also includes putting together and guiding us through strategic planning. They also are going to do marketing research to see what other communities in the country are doing as well. And so all of this is going to formulate, a strategic plan. So I just wanted to address that. Thank you.
Go ahead. Yeah, one moment.
I would just like to add to that. I would just like to add to that the Long Range Planning Committee has doubled its schedule to look at a 5-year strategic plan and what is involved in the process.
Mike Wendell, 145206. Hello, board. Hello, management. I'm just making some observations, in particular seeing this meeting, and it confirms things that I've been leading towards and believing. And basically, there is apathy in this community. There's no question. You're never going to change that. You're never going to hit the numbers that reach 5% or 10% attendance at probably anything other than maybe one of the concerts here in this facility, which has nothing to do with how this facility is run, how this community is run, and how things are happening. The only number that matters, it's not the $40 million. Yeah, it's a big number. It's a huge number. Most people have no idea what the PIF budget is, and most people don't care. What matters is $530 a year. That's it. You want to double that number? Maybe we'll fill this room again. Maybe it'll only be $700 a year to fill this room again. But that's the number it's going to probably bring somebody out, is raising the assessment. We get small numbers. We talk about it. You may get 400 max that we've had over the last year and a half after Karen McAdam was fired from the board. You get 200 or so. We're up at better attendance than we maybe were 2 or 3 years ago, but we're still very low numbers here. And the people that come are all special interests for the most part. There are people that are caring, want to see things improve, but you get the large number, whether it's pickleball, whether it's baseball, softball, whether it's basketball, whatever it is, the groups come and complain about, we need our facility. We need to keep it, or we need to improve it, or we need to do something to it. The annual meeting, 1,400. We didn't even come close with the second one. And what's to say about that? Apathy. I think RCSC management is in a rut, and that's probably the simplest way I can put it. They're used to doing something a certain way, and they've done it for the last, be it 10 years, at least the 5 years that I've been here. They're just trying to get along, keep it going, keep the noise down, and just make things work. We get some haphazard maintenance. We get some things that are broken for way too long and don't get fixed. Yet we have money sitting on a table. We're a big organization. We have no planning. Bill Pearson mentioned it, 5-year, 10-year master plan. That's a job of management. It's the job of the board to review that kind of plan. It's the job of committees to review that information and provide feedback to the board, which provides feedback to management. Management either needs to wake up and stop making excuses and come back with, if you want this, I need this. Is it another body? Is it several bodies? Is it money? Whatever it is, that's their responsibility. Not to say, well, we're doing the best we can. That's not a good enough answer. There's a lot of money on the table. I'd be willing to pay much more if I was getting value for it. Right now, I don't feel I'm getting value for it. I'm getting tremendous value at 530. Absolutely. I think committees are broken. I've been going back to committees again, starting to attend some of them. They start to try and do things that management should be doing. The Long Range Planning Committee, here you got 8 or 9 people who are volunteers, weren't even elected, who are sitting there saying, we know how to do a 5-year plan, let's do a 5-year plan. They aren't paid full-time. They don't have all the information that RCSC management has available to them, and it's not a full-time job. They put in tremendous time. It's great volunteer effort, but they're not necessarily, representative in my opinion. There's some very smart people that were there, but they're going down in the weeds, going about discussing this, discussing that. Bottom line, it should be coming from the RCSC, and we should be reviewing it. The board should be reviewing it. The board shouldn't be doing management's job. The board should be telling management what they expect, and communication should be better. You can find information on the website if you dig, and you gotta dig for most of it. And there's a lot of things that don't come out in the way they expect to be. Mountain View was rammed through. I went to those town hall meetings. I was here, I went, I listened to the swimmers, I listened to the theater folks, and everybody say what we want. But in the end, there's maybe 200 people at each meeting, 250. That's nowhere near representative of this community. The rest of the people don't care till it hits the bottom line. Are you going to raise my assessment? So I'm frustrated. I'm getting to a point, I don't need to come up and talk anymore, I don't think. I don't think there's much else I have to say. I hope the board can put the task to management. I hope management can stand up to the task, stop making excuses. You need more resources, ask for it. There's money there. Rather than just, oh, do we put the money that's sitting on a table at the moment, carry forward into reserves or anything else? We're not seeing any of that information. We don't get any studies. We don't see how they came about saying the best thing for Mountain View is totally blow it up and rebuild it. We saw nothing along the way that said we looked at options, we looked at other things, how we could get from here to there incrementally or at a much optional cost or other ways to do it. I'm in favor of you slowing down Mountain View right now because I don't think that was ever done. If it was, it wasn't shared with the community. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. I think the final statement at the last LRP meeting was that the committee needed to recommend to task management with creating a 5-year plan for their review by September.
They make the recommendation to us. Agree.
If I could just take a second, I don't think the board can let it pass that it's business as usual. This is not. This is a different board, I'm sorry. It simply is. The way we approach things is different. I've heard, the board has heard today many members coming up here having done research, having looked into the things, having studied things, and I don't know that we've had that in the past. And I appreciate the effort that the members are putting out. And I also probably shouldn't let it pass that we have focus groups coming. They are members, and we need to thank them for volunteering to participate in this process that's going to help make things better.
If I could.
Mr. Director Collins.
Thank you, President. And I just want to say that I'm in charge of the COC committee, and I need volunteers to come and help me put the COC back the way it was supposed to be. They were here. It's Club Organization Committee. And what it is if your club needs something, has trouble doing something, you come to us and we come and we help you. We try to get your people more interested in the clubs. And we're not, we don't want the clubs to be afraid to come to us. We are not going to be the Gestapo. That is not going to happen. We are here to help the clubs. That is our #1 priority. Whatever you need, we will fight to get you. If you just need some help, we will get people there to help you. I need some volunteers to come and join to help me put it back on track and get it back where your clubs will get the recognition and the help that they need a lot sooner and easier. So please, if you can volunteer, please do. And your light is on.
President Fimmel?
Yes.
May I?
Yes, sir.
Also? Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. So I'd like to address the comment that management is flawed. I defend this entire management team as well as the 426 employees that we have. I get feedback considerably from many membership in terms of our facilities and how well they're operated. I meet with the GMs from all of the West Side, Sun Cities, and retirement communities, and I would put up our facilities against any one of them. They're all great, and we've made many, many changes in the last 2 years. We have increased our preventative maintenance budget by at least 50%. We have increased our project management. We just hired a project manager to help us make sure that we keep all of the PIF projects on hand that are moving forward. We have taken the position that we're going to do more than one PIF project in any given time. So we want to make sure that we're accomplishing as much as we can to get those facilities up and running. We've mechanized a lot of our internal controls for accounts payable and payroll. We used to have card punches at each of the facilities, and we used to manually track payroll. We've mechanized that. We've mechanized accounts payable. We have put on the festival this year. A year ago, Teresa and I talked about what can we do to bring more people here and to do more things for our folks. And Teresa's done a wonderful job of bringing in the Italian festival this week that we've had nothing but great feedback on. And the whole ASU study, it's not just, as I stated earlier, we realize and understand that we need to do some strategic planning, and they're going to help us with that. We wanted objective direction in terms of strategic planning. We didn't want this to be a management driven, initiative. We wanted an outside third party to come lead us through that. So to say that management is flawed, I would defend that that is not true.
Thank you, Mr. Cook.
I didn't say flawed, I said management's in the way. I don't think they're flawed, I think they're just not effective. That's the difference.
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, Nancy Greathouse, 149-885. Just 2 quick points. Someone brought up the issue of the building at 99th and Union Hills. That property has been in my mind for a long time. I actually looked into purchasing it a year ago. It is owned by CVS. They were asking $1.1 million for it last year. I don't know if that's still the case. That's an ideal location within the 14 miles of Sun City that would probably be well utilized either for a dog club or for a standalone gymnasium, whatever the options are out there. It's a pretty good price. It was not sufficient for what I was looking for. So just throwing that out, it does have some structural issues, I understand. I don't think it's true structural. I think it's more like air conditioning, roofing, et cetera, things that can probably be improved upon. Just throwing that out as little knowledge or extra information. The other is that I am going to defend the management crew as well. I think they do a great job. Is it perfect? No, and I hope they'll understand that we're going to give them compliments when it comes. We're also going to call it on the carpet when it's something that's not being taken care of, maintenance properly or whatever it is. But thank you for what y'all do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, one and all. Dave Whelan, 17077. I've been called many things. The most politest thing is I'm a gadfly. As to Mr. Wendell, last Friday was the insurance committee meeting, and I don't remember seeing you there. I know. So how can you criticize a committee saying it's broken when... No, stuff it. I'm on budget and finance and the like. Another person criticizing me. Nothing personal. Every time I've needed information from management, all I did was ask, and they've supplied it. Sometimes I've been a pain in the gluteus, but they've always supplied it, and they've been very cordial about it. When I've had questions, they've answered it. Mike, I've served on the board. I've been on both sides, out here and up there. But I think the real question is, how's the view from the cheap seats? Why aren't you on the board? Have you ever run for the board?
Stop it.
No, hey, no, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, but I truly...
All right, ladies and gentlemen, please, we have to have order. If you're addressing us, please address us in the time that you have available.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
I apologize, Kat.
Thank you.
But I think the real question is, people who continue to bellyache and have never served on the board, I think they should. It's an experience, and you want to volunteer, I think that's a really good idea. Now you know why I'm a gadfly. And I yield my time to anybody else. Knock yourself out.
Actually, he was looking my way, and I would run for the board, but I actually work full-time, so I understand I can't have that commitment. I will in the future, trust me.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Mark Yates, 128123. I have one favor. I noticed that there's a survey to the next gen coming into Sun City. Can that be put on the website so the people who were already here can see what that survey was? Because I think it would be very interesting on the questions that were asked that none of us know what they were. All we know is the survey of what we filled out, Bill. Can we see that?
Yeah, that survey has not been sent out yet. So this is the first survey, the internal survey. Then we're going to do an external survey.
When is that going to be sent out?
Polly, it's fall, yeah.
Fall is?
This year, fall of this year.
June, July?
September, October.
Oh, next year, October.
This year, 2023.
So is it already made up?
No, no.
And is ASU doing that also?
That's correct, yes.
So is the board members going to get to see that as
Absolutely.
a pre-trial before?
Absolutely. We have an ad hoc committee that led this internal survey, and I would expect that we would do the same thing as well.
So on your committee, is there members also of Sun City Exchange into that?
In the ad hoc committee,
Okay.
yes.
Yes.
It was made up of membership and board.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Tom Jeffers, 122547. I'm an active member of the Pickleball Club, past board member of the club, and we just held a tournament at the Marinette facility, and I'd like to really thank staff for their participation, their cooperation, their access to our request during this event. It was a 3-day event. We had over 350 people that participated, mostly from outside of this community. Very well received by our members, by the tournament players, by our vendors, who are very thrilled to participate with the facility that we do have, and the improvements that have been made along the way, the lighting, the fences, the windbreaks, the bleachers, everything that contributed to a successful tournament, and we're certainly looking forward to our next one, and we couldn't have done it without the staff, so please convey our appreciation to them. Going forward, couple of years that we've seen some changes in the planning for the Mountain View project. I will say, as a group, we were thrilled with the first option that said, guys, we're taking some tennis courts and we're adding 3 more, and that would go from 7 to 10. And in that period of time, you've seen the numbers on the growth of the sport. Nationally, it's about 9 to 10% a year. Here locally, I've seen our membership in the time I was on the board double. We're looking at 1,000+ people and growing daily. So again, we were thrilled with the addition of courts in Mountain View, but looking at going forward, and I would encourage you, in the master planning, we looked at Lakeview, a great site. I think, Mike, you have a rendering, you have a site plan that's pretty close, with a lot of good participation from a lot of our members, staff, board members, and other planning committee members. So please keep that in mind, that if Mountain View changes and we do keep courts there in the short term, that we would also continue looking at the future for the people and the input that we get as a club and the enthusiasm for people that move to this community, to consider Lakeview or an equivalent. I know some money's been spent there. A lot of staff time's been spent on that. And as a club, we very much would encourage that too, to have a larger number of courts and be able to continue to put on tournaments and bring new people to Sun City. So, thank you.
Can I just make a comment on the pickleball club? You guys do a hell of a job. I mean, you've seen the enthusiasm that these tournaments, I go down Sunday morning to Mountain View. Everybody there is really enjoying themselves, and the growth has been phenomenal. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Excuse me, Mary Sukup, 131008. I've been sitting here all morning. I was going to speak, and then I decided not to speak, but after the last gentleman, I feel I need to. I need to preface my remarks by the fact that I was an ardent pickleball player till my right leg told me I couldn't do it anymore. So I am coming from a passion from pickleball. I was one of 10 people that started the pickleball organization at our city community center in Minnesota. And it has grown just like pickleball has here, you know, by leaps and bounds. There's hundreds and hundreds of people coming because 10 of us thought that this was a fun game. The other day, I had the opportunity, I hadn't been to Lakeview, walking the lake, the path. And I always loved doing that. And we went over there and the waterfall isn't working and we were watching the trucks and everything. But still, it was like totally peaceful over there. The birds were singing and it was like it's the one place in Sun City that you can just go and somebody infirm can go and be outside and it's quiet and it's nice and it's beautiful. The idea of putting the pickleball courts at Lakeview just blew me away that day. Because that same day, we had gone to an estate sale on the Mountain View end of town. And that's where we used to play 3 days a week. We're just driving down the road, and because I don't do a lot of driving in Sun City, I'm not sure what the main 2-lane road that goes past Mountain View is, with our windows open. And we could hear the pinging of the balls. And I mean, I love the sound, but I don't like it at Lakeview. If there's anything you can do about not putting pickleball courts, put more someplace else, you know, buy some other property, but leave Lakeview be a place of quiet and solidarity for the people. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's way too close. Well, I'm going to start off by saying I just hate being up here. Just don't like any of it. Robert Court, 141991. I posted a question on the website Talk of Sun City that asked the question, what is the fairest way to collect the annual assessment fee? Along with the question was a survey that had 2 options, rooftop or individual. The reason why I left it that way is quite simply because that's the way it's been since 1960. I asked the question because it's been asked many times at board meetings and now exchange meetings. In fact, it was just asked a few months ago, and the board wasn't even sure how to answer it. The question's asked, why do single deeded owners pay as much as 2 deeded owners? One person responded on that website that maybe I'm trying to give fair a new meaning. Well, the definition of fair, according to Cambridge Dictionary, is fairness is treating someone in a way that is right or reasonable, or treating a group of people equally and not allowing personal opinions to influence your judgment. For example, if I was asked my opinion about outside golf getting better tee times and rates than the members of Sun City, my answer could be, it doesn't affect me. I don't play golf. It doesn't really matter to me. In fact, if I was to vote just with my wallet, I would say it's been argued that outside golf helps keep my assessment fees down. And so that would be selfish on my part to even have that, but it's my opinion. However, if I was asked, do I think it's fair that outside golf gets better tee times and cheaper rates than members? My answer would be, hell no, it's not. I don't play golf. 89% of us don't play golf. But I would stand with the golfers that they're pretty adamant about the things they want. Someone stated that life's not fair. Well, of course life's not fair because it has outside influences that change that thing. And somebody at 50 gets cancer, never smoked a cigarette. Somebody lives to 99, smoked their entire life and does it. Just life is just not fair. But what makes life fair is rules. And there are some rules on this. There are rules in our articles, Section 8, or articles, Article of Corporation, Article 8, Section 5 states the bylaws of the corporation shall prescribe the qualification of members and the terms of admission to membership. And it goes on to say, provide that the voting rights of all members shall be equal, and all members shall have equal rights and privileges and be subject to equal responsibilities. So it mentions equal 3 times in there. 2 of the times talk about your rights. You have the right and you have the privilege to use the rec centers. You have the right to and the privilege to come to the annual assessment meetings. And you have the other rights and things. But the last one that's equal is about our responsibilities. And when this was first established eons ago, long before I was ever here, everybody paid exactly the same amount because it was per person. And so therefore, everybody had equal responsibilities that they were subject to. They were subjected to these equal responsibilities, and therefore it gave them equal privileges and equal rights. And so it was all fine then until 2003, when they changed that rule and said that now there's a whole new class of people that are grandfathered in, and now from now on, we're going to make another rule that might apply to a single deeded owner and a 2 deeded owner, because now it's per rooftop or per property. So it also says that such bylaws shall provide a method for determining the assessments to be paid by the members. What's a method? Maybe changing how it's paid. Instead of once a year, once a month. That's a method change. But what we did in 2003 was we changed the formula. We said these people are grandfathered in, and these people are going to be treated totally different. So when you look at the word equal in all this, and it does mention equal 3 times, equal, the definition of it is the same measure, quality, amount, or number as another. It also says identical in mathematical value or denotation. Identical in mathematical value. The same quality, nature, or status. Or the last one is the same for each member of a group, class, or society. And my argument is in 2003 it became unequal, and it's not equal. When I pay my assessment fee, I pay it, I get 1 vote, and I became a member in good standing. It makes me singularly a member in good standing. But when the couple next door pays their assessment fee, they both become a member in good standing, and that's not equal. There's nothing about that that's equal. And so that's what I wanted to bring up. Somebody mentioned, I wasn't even going to come up here because I hate it. I totally hate coming up here. But somebody mentioned the assessment fee, so I thought, good time to do it. So I challenge the fact that the bylaws that we've got written are in total violation of the Articles of Incorporation. And it was argued in our last membership meeting, where we finally hit a quorum. The people stood here and said, we have a right to vote today. We own this city. We have the right to vote today because it says so in our articles. And so we argued that the articles superseded the bylaws. The bylaws are a byproduct of our Articles of Incorporation. And they took top billing. They're what we're founded on, is what the argument was. And if that's true back then, that's still true now. These bylaws are violating our Articles of Incorporation, and I would like that to be looked at. Thank you very much. I have another suggestion also, but I've taken up too much time. If I'm the last one, I'll continue. My last one? Continue. Thank you. Appreciate it. Someone stated, and this is just another way of looking at the same thing. First one's looking at, do the bylaws violate the articles? That's the first way of looking at it. The second one, someone stated that this question, if posed before the board, would cause an explosion in Sun City, be too divisive to put on your agenda, it would pit the singles against the married couples, and become a bloodbath. I don't know how about all that stuff. I'm not trying to cause an explosion. I'm not trying to create a bloodbath or a birdbath. But I will get to the part about it being divisive or pitting marrieds against singles, which I don't think it's that simple. The person went on to say that until single outnumbered the married couples, it will probably remain this way. The results of this survey that I took was, as of this morning, I just now checked, the results of it are 69.2% choosing individual or going back to per person basis. And 30.8% chose rooftop or per property, which makes me kind of wonder, do we have a 70%, if it's just as simple as single versus married, do we have a 70% single rate here? I don't think so. I think we have a larger portion of married couples here. But I've been asking this question 6 years since I got here, and I've never had to be worried about ducking at the end of it all in case somebody wants to take a swing at me or whatever. I've been asking this question since I asked it at a board meeting 6 years ago. Why is it like this? And 2 other people asked the same question. The board had no answer, and the only answer came from the general manager at the time, said, it is easier for accounting to do it this way. And at the time, I was thinking, easier for accounting? My goodness, easy and lazy are cousins. If you're just taking the easy way out, there's a good chance you're just taking the lazy way out. Sure, it's easier, but can it be done the other way? So I went back and I thought to myself, what about the numbers? I wonder how things have changed in 20 years since 2003. So I went to the Census Bureau, and baby boomers are divorcing later in life. They just are. And those people are choosing not to get remarried. My block alone has changed. When I first moved in 7 years ago, it was married all the way around, but me and my neighbor. And as the marrieds move out, the single people move in. So I'm suggesting that we take a survey, sort of like gathering 20,000 people here and asking them, what do we do with Mountain View? Let's take a survey. Let's ask the people what they want to do, if they can even change it. Ask them what they want. At least you'll know. You'll have an idea then of what they want. Maybe the demographics of this city have changed. Back 20 years ago, in 2003, when you make a rule that says it's not going to apply to you, it's only going to apply to those people going forward, you're never going to have a fight out of that. Nobody's going to care. They were all excluded from that. But maybe things have changed. And according to the Census Bureau, things have changed. We've got baby boomers, they're changing the thing, they call it the gray divorce. And we've got Generation X, who are age 43 to 58, are moving into this city now. 58, you can move in here. So it's coming down. I'm just asking for a survey. Not a $50,000 survey, just the one we did in 1981. Do you want to buy the Sun Bowl or don't you want to buy the Sun Bowl? Let's have a survey and figure out if things have changed, where people stand. It's going to provide you with 2 answers. One, you're going to know where people stand. You're going to know how it changed, if it has changed. And 2, you're going to have a better answer for the next person that comes up here and asks the same question. Why do I pay as much as them? You can say, well, in 2023, we took a survey, and the majority of the members want rooftop or per property assessment. Or you're going to have an answer that says, we took a survey in 2023, and the majority wants individual or per person assessment. Either one of those 2 answers is better than I don't know, and certainly better than it's just easier. So let's take a survey and find out how we stand on this.
Can I ask you to wrap it up, sir? Could you finish your statement, please, sir?
I will. My last statement is this, because somebody said that it would pit people against each other and cause division. And I'm saying if you take a survey, if you don't tell anybody how you answered your survey, it can't pit anybody against anybody, and it can't cause division, and it can't make a bloodbath. It's just a survey. And I know you have a lot on your plate, and there's more important fish to fry, and there's more important things to do. But taking a survey is not going to add anything to any board member. It's just a survey to figure out how things are. You shouldn't add one thing except for if you answer the survey, individual or rooftop. That's the only amount of time it's going to take from you. So just take a survey. If you've proved that the bylaws don't violate the Articles of Incorporation, which I say they do, if that's already answered, then the other one's just take a survey. There's 2 different recommendations for the same problem. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. And ladies and gentlemen, I want everyone to be heard, but I think that I'm going to have to, because people are not speaking for the second time, but some people have spoken for a second time. I'd like to see if we can close with, I see you, the three of you here. Would that be all right? Yep, okay. Go ahead, Ms. McIntyre.
Good morning. I think it's still morning. Linda McIntyre, 123216. I just want to make a comment about clubs, volunteers, and a compliment to the staff. We talked about, somebody mentioned volunteers, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Wisconsin Club that had our annual event last Thursday, which was a rousing success. I don't know if Ben was there. Some people were there. I think we broke a record. We had about 1,700 attendees, which was huge. In Wisconsin, you never run out of beer. We did. Go figure. Who knew? Go figure. Anyway, I want to thank Jolynn for helping us out. As always, she's a great help with website. I saw Mike from RCSC staff earlier. His crew does a great job with helping with setup the day before opening the Sun Bowl facility for us. I can't say enough about him always being willing. He stopped in at one of our committee meetings one day and said, I always love working. You guys do the best event in town. Now maybe the Italian festival is better. I don't know. But the Wisconsin Club likes to have a good time. So we're very proud of our event and what we do. But I want to say in terms of volunteers, we had about 110 to 120 volunteers that help us put on that event. And we can't do it without them. And they're not all from Wisconsin, actually. And we even let Bears and Vikings fans come and help us. And we let them attend. We just said they couldn't dance, but anyway. So I want to thank Bill and the whole RCSC group. We do tend to complain and we do tend to say, you know, yak, 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 but it was a good day. And we'll be back next year. It's the second Thursday in March, for those that didn't know. And we do have to thank social media. There's 4 Sun City chat groups now, I think, and they did help us spread the word. So anyway, thank you. And I wanted the board to know, so thanks.
Thank you. Gentlemen, which one of you wants to be next?
Thank you, Bill Pearson, 133438. Very quickly, I wanted to end on a positive note. General Manager Cook made the point, and it's well made, and oftentimes people fail to understand it. SHOA and the RCSC are two different organizations. They have to be by articles of incorporation. To the RCSC's credit, they have assisted SHOA whenever they can, and perhaps in their most difficult challenges in the yearly reporting that goes in on the age overlay. But from an organizational standpoint, don't look for the two to marry up anytime soon. It would be literally a physical impossibility. SHOA is doing very good. They could do better in their marketing and their promotion, but they're alive and well, and the RCSC is alive and well, and so it's all good. We're probably one of only a handful of organizations, communities that exist with its own freestanding homeowners association and with its own organization to run the amenities. So it's a unique setting, and it should be. So support both. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, can I speak? I just wanted to also mention, the crowd is dwindling. Hopefully the people in TV land will listen also. SHOA is not mandatory, and it should be, in my estimation. So if you're a single, there's so much misconception. If you're a single homeowner, $25 a year will get you membership in SHOA. What's $25? 5 times at Starbucks? I don't know. I don't go there. But it is well worth the money. Am I right? Any single home owner. Think about it. Put that on your list of bills to pay this year.
Ben, did you have a final word?
Yeah. A very quick one. One, I heard something that I don't think was correct, because I was here for all the meetings in 2003 when they changed the policy about going to rooftop. The statement I heard was that it made it easier. That was not the statement that was made by management and by the board. That was made by people who were criticizing the system from out here. The statement was made was that it gave a more dependable way of being ascertaining to do budgeting. You'd have a stable amount of money that you knew that you were going to have because you counted rooftops and not population. So I was here, I heard it, I was part of it, the discussion, and so I think that's fair. That's it.
Thank you. The next meeting of the Board of Directors is on March 30th at 9 a.m. in Sundial. The next exchange is on April 10th at 9 a.m. here in Sundial. I'm sorry? 3 p.m., I'm sorry? April's at 3 p.m. Okay. And there being no further business and without objection, this meeting is adjourned. Please remember to turn back on your phones and electronic devices. Thank you.
April 10th when? At 9, right?
This is a copyrighted production of the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated and is intended for the sole purpose of informing our Recreation Center members. Any duplication, copying, transmission, broadcast, or use, including electronic and social media, is strictly prohibited without the prior written consent from the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated. Thank you for watching.